Mic check. I'm EQ.
Mic check, mic check.
1 2 1 2.
That's it.
The Brooklyn
Peace,
Dawn in the
everyone.
building.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We
You
back
heard?
in the building. Urban Echoes
play with
Network
me. I know how to do
podcast.
this. I know
You
how to
see
do
what it
this.
is. This all energy right now. This all energy. I'm not even gonna stop it either.
Yeah, it's your
Kimathi
boy.
Khama, aka Ramel the Writer. We got a special guest in the building. We got the one and only.
You want to say Calvin Klein, Bacote, the Brooklyn Dawn, you know what I mean?
Go.
Whatever.
Calvin,
Listen, man.
and for those who don't know, I want you to tell people about yourself. Because again, I've done my research.
Yes.
I know the people back in the day, they done their research. But I don't want to do it any disservice. So, brother, I would like you to introduce yourself. But we
Yes,
got in the
thank
building, Calvin Klein, Bacote.
Yes.
Thank you and greetings.
Yes, thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me up here in Connecticut, man. You know, one of the stops that I insisted to make in my little tour that I got going on. What camera we in?
So either one. You on that camera, I'm on this one.
Okay. It's all good. You know, Calvin Klein Bacote, man. You know what I mean? If you don't know the story, you know it now. And if you don't know it now, you're gonna know it later. Trust and believe. You know, I come from back in the days, born and raised in Red Hook, Brooklyn. You know, was just doing what things was being done back then in the era of the Bush and Reagan. I call it the Bush and the Reagan era. You know, doing all the wrong things, selling drugs, you know, holding it down, you know, going to war, you know, gunplay, the whole nine, you know what I mean, all that, though.
Okay.
So,
now, but one of the things that I really want to talk about is a lot of people who are unfamiliar, they'll know about the influences that you had on Jay-Z. And, you know, obviously it's going to go way deeper than that. But obviously Jay-Z sees something where he could write songs about it and do all these things. But I want to know about you.
Yes.
What are some of the things that Jay-Z seen that we may not have seen? What are some of the things that we may not know that they know? Because again, I believe that it's a different era right now. But who are you as a person outside of the fame, the glamour? Who are you?
I'm a mother and a father's son. You know what I mean? I'm a child who had that chance and opportunities to do things that a mother and father would have wanted them to do, and I say it the right way. But born and raised in the hood, you know, looking at the wrong people instead of the right people, and somewhat kind of losing focus. You know, I got caught up and started doing unnecessary things. You know,
Like what age? Like what age do you think you was by?
I
say jumping off the porch.
Yeah,
What age you came off the porch?
I didn't really jump off the porch. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I didn't have to jump off the porch to be honest with you. 13, 14 years old, you know, I jumped off the porch on a dare. You know, unfortunately, on a dare, and the dare gave me an unfortunate career. You know, a friend of mine's wound up going out there on the streets and was with the wrong group of guys, and you know, I walked into the conversation, you know, after coming from work with my dad, and just to punk him, you know what I mean, and to prove him wrong, you know, what he'd supposed to had done, I told him I was going to go out the next day with them and do it. So they kind of shunned me off. They didn't even think that, you know, like, come on, man, you know what I mean? You know, your mom and dad, you know, I was one like a mama's boy, you know what I mean? And tied to my pop's hip type thing. And for the most part, I went out there the next day. The dare was to go out there and snatch gold chains, snatch pocketbooks. You know what I mean? Do, you know, that was the thing in that time.
In that era, yeah.
And I wound up going out there the next day, and I did it, and I didn't stop for a long time after that. Because what echoed in the back of my head was not only just the dare, but my brother being out there on the streets before me. I kept hearing in the back of my mind, "You a mama's boy. I handle my own. I do my own." And he was only like 16, 17. You know what I mean? So once I entertained the dare, and I saw that, you know, I was able to get my own money then at that time.
That's it.
You know, it was over with. You know, I didn't look back. You know, and then I started dealing with the other groups outside of my projects, outside of Red Hook. You know what I mean? The original 50 Cent. You know, I ran with him. You know, which he was best friends with my brother, though. So it was easy for me to kind of like, you know, maneuver a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Because my brother already had a name for himself, you know, and then now I'm here, I'm following behind that, you know, taking my chance, taking my risk, you know what I mean? And, you know, I just chose the wrong choice of careers. That's what it was.
Okay. Now, I'm seeing that, again, you are idolized in several songs by several different artists. How do you feel about that? I mean, as a person, the fact that you have such an influence, again, on hip-hop culture, you have an influence on Jay-Z, obviously. How do you feel about being idolized like that in this music?
I mean, of course it feels good, you know what I mean? But, you know, what I'm being idolized for doesn't feel good, you know, especially for what I'm doing right now. You know, on tour, moving around, doing my thing with the schools, you know what I mean, and doing my thing with you know, different people inside of different organizations, Guns Down, Life Up,
Absolutely.
you know, Life Camp, you know what I mean, you know, Erica Ford and them, you know, I've come in between Andre Norman, you know, motivated speaker, and, you know, Dr. Dennis McKeezy, and a whole bunch of different other principles and things of that nature, though. So being in the mix of that, you know, makes me realize that, you know, the space that I'm in right now, if I was in that space years ago, you know, then I can only imagine. Like, I grew up in the church with Al Sharpton. We were born and raised in the same church. He just went this direction and I went that one.
Okay. Now that makes sense. All right. And now, how do you feel? Because I think about this and I think about the era today. I'm older. So I think about the younger generation as far as today, and I think about the generation in the past. What are some of the things that you see? Obviously, we've been in the streets. What are some of the things that you see today that the younger generation, I would say, have lost, whether it be principles or morals that you think that was back in the day that they had that are lost?
Well, it's just that, the principles and the morals. You know,
Which
what I mean?
now give us some, just because I know as far as like on social media, people broadcast everything on social media. Back in my day, that was like you not telling anything like that, and not to say that, but that's just the era that we live in.
Well, back then we didn't have social media, so we don't know what we would have done back then if we had it. You know, we just stand on what we stand on. And I want to say on how I was raised, you know what I mean? My mom and dad raised us to go outside, and if one fight, we all fight. You know, my mom say that if you go out there and your brother or your sister get into a fight and then you didn't fight with them, then you must not be family. You're not welcome home. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Like, you know, so, you know, it's just how they being raised right now. And truth of the matter is 9 times out of 10, most of them is really just raising themselves. You know, we was raised by a village of people. You know, now this village in this era and time, they're not raising nobody. They just standing back with their phone and they just, you know, being videoing, you know, saying what's going on. You know, they don't want to. That might go in their algorithm, you know what I mean, and they might get views, and you know their numbers might go up because they filming somebody getting killed. They're not trying to stop the killing; they're just trying to film it,
just for likes.
Just for likes.
So what is something that what is a message that you would like to give them, like the youth? Because obviously we're going to get into the fact that you wrote a book, and we're going to get into the fact that you have a program that I'd like you to elaborate on as well. But what are some of the principles? Because I'm gonna give you an example, and I would like this. This is a better question. A drug dealer and a hustler. What do you think the difference are between a drug dealer and a hustler?
Not much at all. You know what I mean? I would say the same. You know, a drug dealer is someone who just has an opportunity or the ability to be able to go get the drugs. And a hustler is someone who knows how to sell it. But the drug dealer has to be able to know how to sell it as well. So I see that they both one and the same, really, to be honest, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that question, I'm a drug dealer and I'm a hustler. But what I would add to myself is I'm a drug dealer, a hustler, and a businessman. You know, if I had to kind of like give myself that credit for that, you know, but I don't know, man. Like the way these kids move around now is they don't want to be told what to do. And you have to realize we didn't want to be told what to do either. You know, inside of my book, inside of one of my chapters, I call it generational curses. You know, that you don't have to allow yourself to be cursed by the generation that your parents was raised on, you know what I mean? Because that was their time. You know, I have another chapter called Era. You know, that was their time. Give the kids their time. Give them their moment. Give them their space to make their mistakes as we made ours. You can, they fall, pick them up, man. They don't want to be chastised as hard as we chastise them nowadays. You know what I mean? Or what I try to tell them, I'm not the preacher, man. I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm not trying to do anything. When I open up, when I'm speaking to them, I ask them first and foremost, do you walk on water? They told me no. I tell them I can't either. So neither one of us God.
That's it.
You know, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to preach to you. I'm just going to talk to you. And I'm not going to tell you to put your gun down. But I will ask you why you picking it up.
That's it. That's
the conversations that we got to have with them. We can't be the OG and the big homie, yo, my dude, yo, come here, son. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a motive behind you being an OG. You know, you want the little shorty to go rob somebody because you got 3 strikes, you done. So you trying to teach the young kid to go out there to do what you used to do and what you still want to do. So when he gets locked up, he's 14 years old. They're gonna let him go. But sometimes the case might be a little too hard, and they might charge him as an adult. But that's not your loss. That's his loss. That's the kid's loss.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's just a messenger, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get caught up on who I used to be. You know, I don't try to tell the kids on all the things I've had. Oh, I made millions of dollars. Or I did this and that and everything else. Now, my approach to them is, I want to talk to them about how much I failed. How much I failed. I failed so much in my life that is ridiculous. If I tell you how many times I failed, you probably wouldn't believe on how many times I've succeeded. How can he have succeeded when he talking about how much he failed?
I respect it.
But at the end of the day, that's where I get your attention at. I get your attention on what I'm not glorifying. More so me sitting here telling you about all the cars, the juries, the lifestyle, all. Man, you can watch that fake shit on video, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can watch all that somewhere else, but you're not gonna get it here. You're not gonna get it with me. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's not my message. That's not my message. That's not my approach to you. When I look at you, I look at a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old. I'm looking at a mirror of who I used to be. And I know how to address you. I know how to confront you. I know how to come to you, and I know how to talk to you. Because I'm not going to talk down to you. I'm not going to come at you no other kind of way. I'm not your mother. I'm not your father. And I don't even want to be your big homie. I just want to be a voice in your ear. That's all. No more, no less.
You mentioned being a new man today. I noticed that you will talk about your book, Neighborhood Under Siege, Memoirs of a Brooklyn Don.
Yes.
What inspired you to write that? I want to get into the book, obviously, but I want to know what's your inspiration behind writing something like that.
What inspired me to write that book is trouble again. Trouble knocked on my door once again. I had to write the book in order to see who I was. Because I kept being told from my peers, I'm the big homie. I'm the big OG. I'm this and that. And I got brainwashed to who they was telling me I was. And I was believed to make believe that I was this superhero or this larger than life, you know, this the persona of
Calvin
Klein. Like, you know what I mean? So I had to really look into who Calvin Klein was. I had to evaluate who Calvin Klein was, because in order to save Calvin Bacote, I had to get some sort of control over Calvin Klein, you know, because Calvin Klein was drowning Calvin Bacote. You know what I mean? So I had to write the book.
And when you say that, I'm not cut you. You mean the reputation, the
you know what I mean?
fame?
Like, yeah, all of that.
Okay.
All that. Fame comes with a lot. You know, when I got locked up in '91, I believe I was, so if my time is correctly, I think I might have been like 24 or something like that, going on 25. When I got my sentence, I got sentenced to 21 years, running consecutive for 4 years. And when I went into the cell, when they slammed the cell and closed the cell, my brother was my co-defendant on the case, and we both was cellmates. And my brother wound up being my co-defendant only because he had my last name. My brother had nothing to do with the case, but that's another story. But when they closed the cell, I said, oh man, damn, I'm glad that's over. He said, what? I said, man, all that responsibility and going out there and going to get this connect and that connect and dealing with this guy. I was associated to 43 crack spots in New York alone. I was associated to New York, South Carolina, North Carolina, DC, Connecticut, and a few other places. I'm on the road all over the place. But the crazy thing about it is, it wasn't so much the money at the time. All of what I lost along the years, you know what I always really wanted when it was all said and done, was a family. Not that I didn't have one. I wanted my own family. I wanted my own wife. I wanted my own kids. I wanted that foundation. And by not having that foundation, I was just consumed to the streets. Everything was about money. I wasn't just selling drugs. I was the plug. I was the guy that 10 guys can come through and 10 guys can give me $150,000 a piece. And I go re-up with their money. And when I re-up with their money, I'm taking a piece off top. I'm giving them what I got to give them. And then guess what? I'm a master chemist too. So I'm cooking what I got to give them, and I'm keeping the extras too. So I'm a master of all trades. I'm making it happen all across the board. I'm making money, not just putting work out on the streets, but I'm making money in 4, 5, 6 different ways.
No, but I found it interesting that you said that actually going in jail, you was like that was actually a relief. That
Yeah.
actually the pressure of that life made it where you was actually feeling like to get away from it. Actually, prison was more of a relief for you.
Yeah, I was tired, man. I was tired. You know what I mean? The streets wore me down. You know, I slept 1 hour a day. You know what I mean? My partner Danny Diamonds from Marcy Projects, he had a thing where he was like, both of us can't be asleep at the same time. So I'm up 23 hours. I'll get my little power nap for an hour or so. He'll get his little power nap for an hour or so, and then we running. But for me, my body would break down after 9 months. You know what I mean? And then I would have to just shut it down and, regroup and really get myself back together, get my energy back up, my strength back up. You know what I mean? And then after that, I go full force back on the streets though. But I was going through war, man. I had enemy after enemy, man. If I go outside, I walked outside. I had a 45, a 9, and a Mac 11 with extra clips. You know what I mean? Like, not to say who wants to live like that though, but that was the way of life. You know what I mean? Like, I lived that life for real, for real. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't play no games. Like, blood, sweat, and tears. I had to keep my mindset whereas I wasn't, like, when you're not scared to die, it's kind of hard for you to die. Like, for some reason. Like, you know what I mean? I don't, I want to say I don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm glad it played out that way, for me at least. But, and then after the course of the years, when we fast forward to the years that we in right now, my reward is to be lonely, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all my real friends is dead. Like, you know what I mean? Even the friends I was going to war against back in the days for drugs, you know what I mean? That I grew up with, that, when drugs wasn't, the factor, that was my friend until that became a factor. And at the end of the day, it was like, look where I'm at now. I mean, I do have my family now. I have my wife, my kids. My wife's a doctor. My kids is gymnasts. You know what I mean? I'm proud of my outcome. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I really sit here with really like no real friends.
And see, that's something that I think that, and I'm glad that you mentioned something like that because, again, I spent a lot of time in prison. Likewise. And I think that a lot of individuals do not appreciate the consequences of what comes with that life. It get glorified so much that they will just see the money. They will see the associations. They'll see the idolization, but they won't see them dark times in that cell. True. They won't see them years.
You want me to tell you something crazy? I got locked up in 83, went upstate in 84, Elmira for the first time. I came home in 86. That's when the drug era was on a whole nother level. I never wanted to sell drugs. A day in my life, never wanted to sell drugs.
The man idolized and all types of didn't want to sell drugs.
Never wanted to sell drugs. From my teens, I was a stick-up kid. I never sold drugs. And when I came home at 21, I never wanted to sell drugs. My brother was doing this thing. And that being said, I wanted to be his enforcer. But when he spoke to my mom before I came home, a sidebar conversation that my mom had with him, he was known for being in trouble all the time. And my mom said that if you get my baby in trouble when he come home, getting him involved in his life, doing his thing and doing the stuff that you're doing, I'll never forgive you if he go to jail or if he get killed. So what my brother did was my brother honored that. When I came home, my brother wouldn't give me nothing. My brother wouldn't sell me a bag of potato chips. He wouldn't let me sell a bag. He wouldn't do nothing with me. And I didn't understand it at first until after a while, I kept pressuring him. And it was like, he was like, yo, man, I got to tell you something, man. Because you really want me too hard. I done been a fuck up all my life with mommy and mommy's eyes as a teen. I can't do it, man. I promised mommy I would never do nothing with you, and I'm a whole solid to that.
That's respect.
If you go out there and do it on your own, that's on you. You know what I mean? And that's what pushed me out there. That's what made me go out there and do what I had to do, though, because now it's like, okay, I don't have a crutch. I don't have my brother. You know what I mean? I don't have the next person. You know what I mean? I got to go out there and just gotta try to figure this thing out and do my own thing. And, you know, I just went through a path of everything for me. I was comfortable with violence. You know, I was comfortable with applying violence to selling drugs at this point. And from that point on, it was no looking back. And I didn't have to, I went through a little trial and error here and there, you know what I mean, and all that though, but my story was overnight. You know, guys in my neighborhood was going to war. King of Law, who kidnapped Fat Cat's wife, that's documented. He was going to war against a guy in my space, you know what I mean, called Just, you know, and they was going to war. War don't make you no money. So I was the one that was collecting all the money while they was going to war. And then once one looked up and looked over here, there's a new sheriff in town, you know what I mean? And that was me, and I was an overnight story. You know, I went from 62 grams, and by the next day, I was getting a half a key on the arm, and I was paying the other half. So I was getting a whole key by the next day. And I never looked back at that point.
Okay. Now, you mentioned your brother being someone that was back in the day trying to keep you off the streets and trying to keep you right. I'm assuming and I'm hoping that he had that influence on you, because today you are actually a part of a program that I would also like you to talk about as well. And your program, would you like to please talk about your program and how it helps youth, the at-risk youth?
Yes. Well, I will say this, though, in respect to my brother. The last time I was locked up, my brother said, when you going to stop being Calvin Klein? That's what turned me around. That's what, like, I said, wow. He said, you're high profile. Mommy or daddy died. They're not letting you come to the funeral. Is that the type of respect that you're going to give mommy and daddy because you still chasing who you used to be? And when he said that, I was like, wow. And I didn't want to, I understood his point and what he said, but I called my father after that. And I told my father, I said, and the truth be told, you know, I broke down, I started crying. And I said, Dad, I'm tired of being who I used to be, man. And he said, wow. I said, I don't want to be Calvin Klein no more. I'm tired, man. I got to be this person every day, all day. And I ain't never want to be him.
Image.
Never wanted to be him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I got the name Calvin Klein from the original 50 Cent, you know what I'm saying, from us being at Albee Square Mall. And that's what I mostly used to wear was Calvin Kleins. So I turned around because somebody kept calling me Klein, Klein, Klein. And I turned around, he said, yeah, that's you, nigga. Yeah, you Klein now. That's your name now. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, that ain't my name. So when 50 Cent speaks, people listen. So now all of a sudden, the whole mall calling me Klein. So at that point, I just said, you know what? Okay, cool. I take that because I got tired of people saying Calvin Bacote robbed them and calling me by my government name anyway. So I said, okay, I got to take I got to take some name. So okay, that's what you're calling me. That's what it is, you know. But I didn't make my bones on the street, to be honest with you. I made my bones on Rikers Island. You know, I made them in Rikers Island. Rikers Island was Gladiator, and I was trying to be top Gladiator in the moment, you know, stab or do everything and cut. You know, I got cut in my face. I got hit in the head with a pipe. But I always say this, ask about the person that did it, or ask about the person that was involved, or ask about the people who were around. You know what I mean? War was war. I was a bang monster. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when it's time for me to get transferred from the library or to the visiting room, I had special privileges. They was shutting the whole unit down, the whole jail down, just to transfer me from one place to the next. You know what I mean? I was black box, like, and that's pretty much through the whole course of my doing time. You know what I mean? I'm on a plane. If I'm doing my federal case, they black boxing me. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that's what you call like a high profile prisoner. You know what that is though. But
yeah, now I was about to elaborate on black box, but for those who know, you know.
Yeah, but they have to know. You know what I mean? Because nowadays, when I talk to the kids, I tell them this. I said, you can't tell me you don't know, because when you get in front of the judge gonna tell you you're guilty for not knowing.
Absolutely.
So I don't play the I don't want to take nothing to my grave. You know what I mean? Like if I made a mistake, if I did something wrong, this is not for the OG. My life. I don't live my life for the big homies. I don't live my life for the OGs. I don't live my life for the level where you can look at me eye to eye because you've been through the same things, if not worse, and everything else and all that though. Because most of them are stuck in their ways. Most of them are still shopping on Delancey Street. You know what I mean? Or, most of them are still doing old school stuff. You know what I mean? They're not even here in this era and even knowing how to function with social media. You know what I mean? So I don't get caught up with those type of guys. My focus and my undivided attention to is the kids. And the reason why is because I feel like I owe. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm indebted to that. And I have kids of my own. I don't want no little boy, young man coming to my house, knocking on my door, asking to come see my daughter. And I say, who are you? He said, I'm who you used to be. I don't want that. You know what I mean? So I have to at least give something back to a certain to a certain extent where I could say, here, young man, hold that. You know what I mean?
And that was the inspiration for your program.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I'm gonna be selfish. The book was for me. The book was therapeutic. You know what I mean? And for me to write that book, it was very traumatizing to me for me to have to replay those things. You know what I mean? Because I don't think of those things every day.
And is it more of an autobiography? Or is it more just a
yeah, it's an autobiography. Okay. You know, I don't. Those are the things that I kind of like take out of my mind or try to not remember or do my best to somewhat kind of forget. You know, but I felt the need to have to write the book. And when I wrote it, I was like, wow, like, I couldn't believe that I had to study myself that way in order for me to know who I was. Because the whole time I didn't know. Like, even if we go to the Jay-Z thing, and Jay-Z said he never felt more alive riding shotgun and Klein's Green 5. You want to know the truth? I don't know why he said that. This is the first time I've ever said that. I don't know why he said that. Like, I don't and if I want to sit here and still say it, I'm still trying to understand why he said that.
But with that being said, you don't think that maybe again, because maybe, and I think it's a humbling thing for you to say that, and I don't think that maybe you could appreciate the influence, because obviously this man remembered you. Obviously you have Akon, you have these individuals who are saying these things about you. And it's very humbling for you to say that, and I actually salute that. Some people will take that, run with it, but you're very humble in how you approach the situation. But with that being said, it is something that you were doing, and it is some principles. There was something about you. And obviously, I can see that as the man that you are today. There's something about you with the programs that you're doing and the things that you're saying. One of the things that really stuck to me, and I'm sorry, I got to say this, that was my thing. When I was in prison, I started writing, and I wrote my autobiography. My autobiography was written, and I'm talking about you saying doing soul searching. It was written because I wanted my kids to know who I was. Because they knew an image. They knew the image of who I was. They knew they used to call me K. They used to call me all types of things. But they knew that image. I wrote it because I wanted my kids. I didn't give a damn about anybody else. I didn't think my book was going to sell more than 5 copies. All I wanted to be when I wrote, it was therapeutic, but it was also to the point that I wanted my kids to know and my family to know who I was. And I'm glad that you could come on today and say, this is who you are.
Yes. Well, I mean, I actually did an interview with Don Diva magazine, and I was really kind of reluctant to doing it. God bless DJ Clark Kent. But I called him one day, and he was like, bro, he said, the homie needs you. So I'm like, what you mean? He said, Jay needs you more than ever. So then I said, wow, what happened? He said, yo, you didn't hear that record? So I'm like, what are you talking about? He said the record that Nas did on him in his career is over with for him. So I had my case in court at the time with the Second Circuit at the Court of Appeals. I had to make a quick decision on, could I help the homie or could I assist him in some kind of way? Because Clark is telling me, my services is needed. I reached back out to Don Diva and told Don Diva that I, at the time, wasn't interested, that I am interested. But I wanted to write the story myself. So what they actually did, and again, I'm saying this for the first time, I wrote the whole thing myself, and they just put the questions in between. And it came out amazing.
Salute.
But my point in saying that is that I gave Jay-Z a stamp that and letting him know that he was credible. And he was, you know what I'm saying, at that time and in those moments that, you know, he was official. He been on the streets, you know, he been doing the things that he raps about and he say that he's doing. I know Biggie too, God bless him. You know, I lived on Fulton and St. James. Biggie and them, I used to see them every day on Fulton and Washington. I know their whole team, their whole crew, Rivera, all of them, Big Jess, all of them. You know what I mean? And it's not too much of, you know, I'll say this too. I have a real deep regret, and both under myself do, because Biggie was his guy, Jay was mine. We both placed a bet on me bringing Jay around for Big and Jay to battle against each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I just didn't have time at the time to make time. So beats me up about that, you know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, Klein, yo, man, like, you know.
Y'all heard it first. Y'all heard it first here. Let's go.
We should have made that happen, like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, man, but you know Jay got him, though. You know, I got it.
Yeah, you got it.
You
yeah,
know.
Yeah,
But nah, respect to both of them, man. They represented Brooklyn and the way they were supposed to, you know. Although I do have a lot of regrets in my life, I'm proud of where I'm at right now. The book Neighborhoods Under Siege has done very well, to the point where I don't even really promote it as much as I told you, as I said before. I'm just happy that it was #1 in the country on Amazon. It was #7 on Kindle. You know, I came out with a documentary in 2006 that was #1 in the country, Gangster Chronicles. You know, I'm proud of those accolades. I'm proud of managing Akon, and me and Akon first started Convict Records together. You know, I'm proud of all those things. But what I'm most proud of, yeah, salute to Con. What I'm most proud of is Neighborhood Schools Under Siege. Okay. You know, Neighborhood Schools Under Siege, you know, and in my association with OSG, Off School Grounds, you know what I mean, with Dr. Dennis McKeezy and a whole bunch of other different principals, you know, throughout the country, you know.
Could you speak to a little about that, though?
Yeah, of course. Okay. You know, we on tour with it, you know, and it sounds like, you know, possibly about to do a world tour. Okay. But, you know what I mean?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We state to state with it right now, you know, because it's important. Education is the key to life, you know what Absolutely. I mean? So, you know, and if you want to teach the kids anything, if you want to show the kids some kind of way or whatever, it has to come through education first and foremost. My push, my campaign, is not from the political side of it, you know what I mean? But my push and my campaign is from speaking up for the teachers, you know what I mean? When you can have someone come in there and either get grants or get anything else, you know, and they come in there and get an 8 to 12 week program, and they making more money in 12 weeks than the teacher's making in a whole 8 months, you know, to me is kind of ridiculous, you know what I mean? And I might be speaking against myself, because I am, you know, a vendor. I am, you know, 501c3, you know, foundation and everything else. I am all those, though. But at the same time, what I will not do is I will not hide behind something that's as important as the teachers. You know, it's Respect. One Calvin Bacote, you know what I'm saying, but it's thousands of teachers.
Respect.
You know what I mean? It's Calvin Bacote is one salary, but it's thousands of salaries, you know what I'm saying, for the teachers.
Responsible for the kids.
You know,
Respect.
Yes, exactly. You know, and that's my push, man. I don't, you know, my life is good. My life is good. My life is great. You know, I was in a tractor trailer accident. I was parked and a tractor trailer hit me a couple of years ago. I had 4 operations. You know, I died on the table. You know, and truth be told, that woke me up. You know what I mean? God
like
woke me up.
Absolutely.
God woke me up. You know what I'm saying? And I cried every day for about 2.5 months. And my mother told me at one point, she said, it's time to stop crying. It's time to go to work. It's time to go to work.
That's respect.
And then I said, Mom, you know what? Wow. So not that I was seeking sympathy, you know what I'm saying, but I was seeking more soothing my pain. You know what I mean? And my mother said, and my wife said the same thing. We've soothed your pain and we wiped your face long enough. It's time for you to start moving. And I had to go to therapy for about 1.5 years. Nobody knew this. And when I got my strength to where I needed to be, I called OSG. I called Dr. Dennis McKeezy, and I said, bro, I'm ready. I'm ready, man.
I'm ready to go.
You know, and, you know, to my right is my main man. You know what I'm saying? My main man, my partner, you know what I'm saying? Eric Reloff. And he wears many hats. You know what I mean? But the most important one is the one that gives you the visual, you know what I mean? And he's the eyes of my hell. You know what I mean? He runs the camera crew, he runs the whole full production, you know what I mean? Everything under the sun, you know what I mean, to give the visual to the people when it's time to give it to them. You know, I got a lot going on, you know, I can't do everything at one time. You know, everybody coming at me with a podcast that they've been talking about me doing a podcast for the last 20 years. And, you know, some things for me, it should remain silent. So I really try not to go crazy, you know what I'm saying, with a mic in my face, you know what I mean, and give it all to them, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you got to give things to people in pieces, because if you give it all to them at one time, although you may give it to them as real as it comes, they're not going to get it because it's too much for them. Yeah. You know, I say don't never put a gun in a drug dealer's hand if he's telling you that all he do is just sell drugs, and vice versa. Because what you're going to get out of that drug dealer is when it's time to shoot the gun, he's going to tell you, yo,
that's not me.
And that's not me. I told you that before, you know what I mean, before your little situation happened. It happened to me before too, actually. That's a great example of me saying that though, because it has happened. Okay. But you know, it's my guy, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like we go everywhere together. You know, right now we all up in the schools. We in East New York. You know, we in Far Rockaway. You know, I just got some calls from South Carolina, you know what I'm saying, with the senator, and I'm out there, you know, and I cross barriers, you know what I mean? Like, I've done the Ferguson thing, you know what I mean, sat on panels and spoke across the lines, you know what I'm saying, you know, against police brutality and things of that nature. I spoke at Harvard University. I spoke at DC. I spoke in Vegas, you know, and I do my thing, but I do my thing kind of quietly, you know what I mean? But now I'm ready to make some noise. You know, I don't want to stand behind the scene or behind anybody, you know, at this point. And I think that, you know, my voice has been strong enough in the background, you know, strong enough for me to come out here and make more of a difference, you know what I'm saying, with people knowing that I'm making a difference.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. With that being said, you got to give us a jewel. Like, I know you say that you talk about the program. Gives the youth. Because I like to give the youth jewels. I like to tell individuals what I think about. I tell people about the game. I want you to give some insight. Give some insight, or give a jewel that you could give a young man, young woman out there that, again, that may look at the streets and think that they see something on social media and think that that's real. They will see images and believe that that's real.
Well, I can make it real easy. I tell the youth, your life is your own. You know, your life is no one else's. Everybody had their turn. You got yours. You know, and take advantage of that. But at the same time, education is very important to have. What you do with it is on you, but you have to have it. You know what I mean? And, you know, if you want to look at the videos, you can have those things, you know. Do yourself a favor and start dreaming again, you know, because 9 times out of 10, most of them is not dreaming. So do yourself a favor and start dreaming again. Dreams is beautiful, man. Sometimes you don't even want to wake up from them. You know, because you want to stay stuck in that moment, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're going to wake up to your reality. You're going to wake up to a home where your mom is screaming and your dad is cursing and you know what I mean? Those are the reality of things, you know what I mean? But you have to find somewhere where you can find some peace. And most of the time, your peace is in school, you know, for them 5 or 6, 7 hours, you know what I mean? And then when you go home, you go back to your reality. But at the end of the day, you will overcome that. You know, you will get to the age where you're going to grow out the house. You're going to grow out the home. But you have to take that education with you. You can't grow out the house and out the home with no education. You can't do that. It's not possible. You know, you don't want to be a part of the revolving door of prison. You know what I'm saying? From the school or prison pipeline. You know what I mean? I teach that real serious, you know what I mean, in my programs. You know, I'm a one-stop shop, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I have, like I said, I wrote the book and it's professional use only. 37 chapters, but at the same time, I call it a book of life. And that's something where I don't just bring myself to the forefront of telling the story in itself. I talk about Michael Jordan when we talk about failure to succeed. Michael Jordan, I got a commercial where I show a commercial to the kids, and I show them a commercial of Michael Jordan talking about all the failures that he's made in his basketball career. I talk about Allen Iverson, where Allen Iverson talk about how he almost didn't have a career because of the incident that he had in the mall. I talk about a few other people. I pick situations. I pick career day. You know what I mean? I bring my wife, my wife is a doctor, and go up there and talk to the young girls about being a nurse or being a doctor or being something productive, you know what I'm saying, that they can actually have a life with, different other things as far as film. We get the kids involved. We have a program right now where I guess do you care to speak about it?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. I'll let Eric speak about that because he's more he'll give you more details and everything else when it comes to that. And you can kind of like speak to them about, we'll be up in Mount Vernon, you know what I mean, and crossing paths with, Denzel Washington's camp and things of that nature, and a whole lot of other people. Like, we really serious with this, man. We really all in and all out with it, we leave. I tell people this: I'm a giant. I can't hide under a rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what you say, what you think, how you feel. I don't care about nothing, none of that. You know what I mean? None of that is bigger than what I'm doing.
Respect. That's it.
At all, period.
He said it's bigger than
it's bigger than you.
Absolutely. And now you was mentioning about the program?
Yeah, so to touch on really the questions that you asked and the answers that he gave, the reason behind what it is that we are doing is because where we all come from, I'm a little bit, younger than Calvin, but where we come from, we were fortunate enough to have kind of the ability to be like on the cusp of history as things were changing, right? And so especially with your parents, especially with the OGs in the streets, especially with people who are maybe just even a little bit older than you, they could kind of guide you, right? All that has changed. Last 40 some odd years, 30 years or whatever, right? A lot of that has been kind of the same, and there's no connection to the history. If you don't understand your legacy, you don't understand your history, you don't understand the things that have happened before you, then you're lost going forward. Because everything is just a recycling of the same problems, the same issues, right? And you look at people around you like, how can they get out of it and I can't get out of it and this isn't working? And so what we decided to do with this program, Neighborhood Schools Under Siege, which is a kind of like a siphon off of the book that he had, Neighborhoods Under Siege, right? Book about his life, especially really in his younger years, right? We're taking that and we're making it into a full-on production to where not only we involve the skill set of learning how to do something, using your education to operate, camera equipment or sound equipment or to do set design or to do what have you, right? But it's also a life teaching class where the kids kind of from a different angle, they never really see the lesson coming, and by the time they realize what's happening, they're like, oh, now I understand, right? So that you're not, like he said, imprinting that on them every day and making them kind of like, feel forced to digest this stuff. You have it where it comes from a more natural standpoint. So it gives us the ability to tell the stories that are most impactful for today's youth, and also make it as such where, we'd be remiss if we didn't say, like, part of that is, when you're working with the DOE or he's getting involved with libraries and stuff like that, when you're doing that, right, you need to be able to showcase, like, this is what I'm doing for the kids, right? It's not just about being over, on a YouTube video or on a podcast. It's about showcasing, how did you involve the kids in this? How do you expect us to believe they learned something? Well, they're going to see true enactments through professional actors, through themselves, through a whole production that we're putting together. They're going to see true enactments of history, things that actually happened, coming from somebody that has, quite honestly, in today's words, the clout, the legacy to be able to tell that story. Because the message would be different coming from me, right? I've had my own life, but it would be different coming from me. And then at the same time, incorporating that into some skill sets that we've started to see rather quickly that a lot of the kids have interest in. And let's be honest, that's kind of the way of the world, the way things are going. To be the accountant, a lot of times is not really the thing anymore that they want to do. I want to be a star, I want to be a YouTube, but we're showcasing the work that goes into that. Absolutely. To be a creative, and yourself, even here with the podcast and the things that you're doing and how you're showcasing these wonderful stories of guys like Calvin, like yourself, like Dr. Booker, like everybody who's here around in Connecticut. In order to do that, you got to be your own, push, your own trainer. You got to be the one that's creating. You got to make the work happen. You got to put the whole project together. And a lot of people don't see that behind the scenes. And so that's what it is that we're doing. And we're taking that from state to state as we've been doing. And it's really, it's really growing into something phenomenal. And, we'll be setting up auditions and set design and working out the scripts and the different life's lessons and the scenes from now until even throughout the summer. And then, when the school year starts once again, we'll be doing it all over again and showcasing, how these things can really kind of help. And that's gonna feed into the bigger message of what guys like yourself and Calvin are talking about being like, I heard the word many years ago through Dave Chappelle, actually, a griot, right? Being somebody who is able to pass the stories on, pass on the history, pass on the legacy, especially amongst a group of people, right, that had all that robbed from them, right? So now here you are, right? You're trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. You're trying to survive. You got your own kids. He's got his own kids, right? But y'all have the sensibility to know that it's not just about you guys, and that you can come together. And when you come together and you lead the one, each one teach one, they're going to be looking at you and be like, you want to know what? They saw in me maybe what I didn't see in myself. And now they can connect the best parts of history, the best parts of growing up as a little kid in Red Hook and running around with his skateboard and mommy and daddy with him in church and the whole thing, to understanding, like he says, he knows where it went wrong. Miss Joanne and Mr. Ken, they didn't teach him that. They don't hold any responsibility for that.
Yeah, I don't.
None whatsoever.
Sorry for cutting you, bro, but what I don't do is I don't hold my mom and dad responsible for nothing I've done after 14 years old. I don't do that at all. I actually praise my mom and my dad for raising me as best they could, doing everything that they were supposed to, and as they still do. Those are my coaches. To me being a better man and to being a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better individual. I can sit here before you and I can be clean in my heart, and my faith in God, telling me that I'm in the right direction, I'm in the right space, I'm amongst the right people, I'm associated with the right people. I'd rather be guilty by association around the right people than be guilty by association with the wrong ones. We are providing, because no one's giving the kids nothing. What we doing as far as with our program, with our movement, what we doing is we're giving them something. And when we give it to them, they're listening. We'll go to a school and we'll see the school have 20 Apple computers not being used. We see a podcast room with a school. We see the music room with the school. We see all this equipment that the school has. And what we do is we do a walkthrough. We do a walk around. We evaluate. We look at the equipment. We look at the inventory. And we see how we can best use the inventory for the students.
Because he's getting immediate feedback, back from the kids. They see what it is that he does.
We put the students behind everything. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I want 20, 30 kids. Okay, I want a kid on this mic. I want you to learn how to set this up. I want a kid behind that camera. I want you around the A camera, the B camera, the C camera. I want even not only just a kid behind the camera, I want another kid behind the kid. That's it. I want y'all all in a line. And I want y'all to step forward one at a time. Once you get it, then move over to let the next person get it. Once the next person get it, then you move on and let the next person. Each one teach one.
That's deep.
You know what I mean? We hold them accountable and make them enjoy what they doing, like what they doing, love what they doing, all that. And we getting amazing feedback. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy, I'm blessed, and we're favored.
Kids big part of a big production, which becomes part of a bigger lesson, a life lesson, and a bigger movement, man. And that's what we realized throughout history, right? People don't get attached to things unless it's a real movement, and that's what we're creating. You know?
And I'm focusing more on a lot of the trouble kids. The good kids don't need the help; they just want to be part of the fun. But you know, I want the trouble ones to be in the front line. You know, and if I got 20, 30 kids just sitting out there, and I'm looking at them, the trouble one gonna stand out. And that's the one that I'm going to focus on. And even just say about a week or so ago, I had a trouble kid that was really troubled. But then another trouble kid came and sat down because I go out as a mentor, you know, motivator speaker and do one-on-ones and sessions like that. And when I'm sitting down there talking to one kid and the other kid coming in, he go, yo, listen to him, man. Listen to him. So, you know, it's going around, it's circulating,
Immediate
you know,
effect.
and everybody is driven to like, Mr. Calvin, you know what I mean? Like, I told you I don't walk on water. Don't think I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this. But guess what? We giving incentives too. If I want you behind that camera, if I want you in a computer, I got not only just 20 kids in this class, but guess what? We're doing a documentary on every school we go to. We document in every school we go to. So guess what? I'm telling you, I'm associated to 1,800 schools. 1,800 schools, and all those students that's sitting behind a camera or sitting behind a computer, guess what we have? Social media movement. We have a social media team of kids that love being on the phone anyway.
Just giving them what they love. Just teaching them different components of it.
Yep.
That's deep.
Yep.
Brothers, we could be here all night. I definitely, absolutely appreciate you.
We appreciate you more, man.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that you're doing for us.
Yes.
Again, Calvin Klein.
Eric Reloff in the
Eric
building.
Reloff in the building. I had to get that right. We got Dr. Book in the back. Y'all don't see that, though. We got the brother there, though.
That's right.
But again, another episode of the Urban Echoes Network podcast. Kimathi Khama here, Ramelda right at peace.
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing. I want to say one thing. In order to contact me, you can contact me at...
that was my fault. I should have did it.
It's all good. You can contact me at the Cbacotefoundation at Gmail. The Cbacotefoundation at Gmail.
And we will post that up.
Yes, you can get me there, catch me there. Book me, whatever, however you want to do it. You know what I mean? We 501c3, you know, vendors and all that. You know, we correct over here. We doing it right, you know. And also life. I want to make it real clear. We're not going to these schools and taking their money. We're bringing money to the table too at the same time.
Let's go.
What you give me, I'm going to double it and give it back to you. I'm not only just a hustler, I'm a businessman.
Let's go.
Facts.
He's a businessman.
This is about business. How what's called said? He's a businessman. Urban Echoes Network podcast. Peace.